Hey guys, welcome back. Or maybe you didn't suffer through that first video, in which case, welcome. In this video, we'll look at a few things we did to prepare for the kit delivery and then taking delivery. The first thing we'll do is look at what we did to store the wings, and then we'll take a look at the rotisserie and then delivery day and unboxing it. So feel free to skip ahead to whatever part you're interested in. So the first thing we needed to do is figure out what we're going to do with the wings while we work on the rest of the kit. I think the best option is to just leave them in the crates that they come in. Since we wanted to store them here on site and we didn't want to give up that much floor space, this wasn't really an option for us. In fact, we didn't really want to give up any floor space at all, so even the popular wing stands weren't really an option for us. So the next best option is to hang them from the spar fitting and aileron bracket with the leading edge hanging down. With this option, you have to either give up head space or wall space or both, and we didn't really want to give up either. So we went with plan C and used these cradles. The cradles allow us to hang the wings up flat against the ceiling. We used 4 cradles per wing so that any given one could fail and the wing would still be secured. Each cradle was made by sandwiching 2 2x6s together. Doubling up the 2x6s was mostly just to create a larger surface area that the wing would rest on. So here's how we made the cradles. We started by cutting 2x6s to length. We cut them to 64 inches long to allow adequate overhang on each end. The plans come with a full-scale Mylar sheet that I used to get the profile of the bottom of the wing. I copied this contour and transferred it to a 2x6 to be cut out. This very well might be an unnecessary step, but since the weight of the wing will only be supported by 8 2x over the length of the wing, I wanted to make sure that the weight was distributed as evenly as possible. Then I cleaned it up with a belt sander, checking the contour with the full-scale drawing until I was happy with the match. We only needed to do this for one of the 16 pieces, thankfully. This perfected one will be used as a template for the rest. Next, I transferred the bottom airfoil to the remaining 2x6s and then conservatively rough cut them with a jigsaw as well. After they were all rough cut, I clamped them individually to the template and cut them to size using a flush trim bit and a router. To join the 2x6s together, I used a little wood glue just because it was cheap and easy. Then I tacked it in place with a couple of finish nails and then screwed it all together with construction screws. Then I drilled a hole in each end for the straps to hang from. And then the final step was cutting some strips of cheap high-density upholstery foam and gluing it in place. After the cradles were made, I needed a way to hang them from the ceiling. I used eye bolts. I drilled a hole in the trusses from the top down to ensure that I was in the center of each truss. And then we just put the eye bolts in and double nutted them. Next up was a rotisserie. Like many things online, I was getting conflicting messages about whether or not it was necessary or not. Some people said that you didn't really need one to build, and then others were saying that they'd never build without. Since we had some time to spare while waiting on our kit to arrive, and most of the stuff to build one just laying around from other projects and stuff, we decided to go ahead and build one. We chose to use 4x4s for the frame just because we had a few left over from another project. After cutting the pieces to size, we then used dado and rabbet joinery to hopefully err on the side of being overbuilt. Then we glued the frame together and used construction screws as fasteners. Then we put in a couple of 45-degree braces and a scrap piece of 3/4 inch plywood on the side that we plan to mount a junk pile find on to tie everything together and strengthen it up. To finish up, we just put a few locking casters on the bottom. For one end of the rotisserie, we put an old gear hub off a center pivot on, mostly because it was free off of somebody's junk pile, but also because it spins with ease by turning the drive shaft connection point and automatically locks in place at any point. So I don't have to worry about making any kind of locking mechanism or tightening a set screw when I have the fuselage repositioned. For the other end, I just used half a PTO from an old retired implement, welded a 3/4 inch T to one end and then just tacked on a piece of pipe over the square end so it would rotate smoothly. All right, so I'm confident you're sick of listening to me, so I'm going to pass it off to Amanda. And honestly, I was so excited when the kit came that it's just kind of a blur in my memory at this point. All right, Amanda, tell them how it went down.
Okay. After we wrangled up a couple of close family and friends, we felt like we were finally ready for the plane kit. The kit comes wrapped in thick white shrink wrap, like the stuff they wrap boats in for long-term storage, and a lot of bubble wrap and styrofoam to make sure that the kit arrives safely and without damage. After Mike cut all the plastic off, he started unloading the kit components that are packed inside the fuselage. Pretty much everything that comes with the kit is packed inside the fuselage, so Mike would unpack and hand us the items, and we'd haul them back into the garage in a little makeshift assembly line. Once the fuselage was mostly unloaded, we carried it into the garage and set it on a couple of furniture dollies. The fuselage itself doesn't weigh much. 2 strong people could probably carry it on their own, but we had lots of help and made good use of it. When it came time to unload the wings, having extra hands around was definitely nice. The wings themselves only weigh around 120 pounds apiece, but the sturdy crates they come shipped in are substantial and add quite a bit of weight. We loaded both crates onto a couple of furniture dollies Mike had along and rolled them down our driveway to our garage. After removing the crate tops and unbolting the wings from the crate, we started to unload them. This included unloading the flaps and ailerons. We had the wing cradles Colby had crafted laid out on the floor. A rope attached these up through eye bolts in the ceiling. So we just carried the wings in, sat them on the cradles, and then pulled them up into place with the ropes. Once they were in place near the ceiling, we went around and secured them with ratchet straps. When we had finally finished unloading everything and Mike was on his way to deliver the next kit, we started unpacking and inventorying. The kit comes with a list of its contents, so as we were unpacking, we checked items off to make sure that they were accounted for. The list was also helpful in identifying some of the kit components we didn't recognize. Most of the parts came labeled, which was very nice. The individual parts come wrapped in bubble wrap and packing tape. This is great because it keeps the parts from rubbing together during transport, and we're planning to leave as many parts as we can wrapped to avoid hanger rash while working on other things. But it does take quite a while to remove off of all the parts and generates a lot of trash. Speaking of a lot of trash, be sure you're ready for a lot of polystyrene when you're unpacking your kit, especially when unpacking the wings. We're pretty cheap, so instead of sending this to the landfill, we added it onto the insulation in our attic to save a buck. Alright, that's all for this one. Next video we'll actually start building. We'll leave you with some clips of the kit contents in more detail, and we'll see you in the next one.